If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Welcome in to Two Guys One Pod, Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm the legendary ball knower, aka Chev90, aka your favorite podcaster's favorite podcaster, and I am joined today by my partner, my esteemed colleague, one of my esteemed colleagues from League Champ. We merged. We're here. We're playing tummy sticks. Addy, the Nard Dog Narder. How are you doing today, brother?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Nerd Dog here on the mic, and ready to get into it. We already did a mock draft today, man. Doubling up on podcasts. I'm feeling into it. NFL season's coming up in a solid 8 months. What could you be? What better thing could you be doing with your time right now?
198 days till kickoff Sunday. I know this because Scott Hansen posted, that's Scott Hansen of Red Zone for those of you who just still watch like only broadcasts and don't ever
formerly of Red Zone.
Yeah. Oh, wait, what?
I heard he signed a contract with NBC and he's out of there.
No.
I know. I was devastated.
You're breaking news and I'm sure people have known that by now, and I'm the last person to find out. So that's super cool.
I'm gonna make sure this is actually news.
Yeah, it's fine if it's not. We'll put Scott Hansen. Yeah. Scott Hansen appears on Two Guys One Pod and spike this to about 14,000 listens, and then people are gonna hate us and leave a 1-star review and never talk to us again. So all that to say, it's really sad. We're about 195 days or 198 days, whatever I said, away from kickoff NFL Red Zone Sunday, and actually your Bears are you're playing in the season opener in Philly.
Oh yeah, we are. And yeah, but that being said, we're 7 days from a pretty substantial event in the NFL season. It's the start of the combine.
Yes. So this is the beautiful thing, that once you're starved for football, you're going to be watching the combine like Zapruder film, just analyzing every single step of somebody's 40, their pro agility, the 3-cone, the L drill, how did this guy look out of his breaks in the route, just doing all the football nerd stuff that you could possibly imagine, because there's no football, and I'm ready for it. I love the combine. I think it gets overblown a little bit with certain circles of people, but I love the combine because you get to go watch highlights of players that because there's no football. So that's just me.
Oh, I love the combine. I love people freaking out over a drop during the receiver drills. That's my favorite stuff. Like, it's being like, will this guy ever catch the ball again? Is he Kadarius Toney?
Does he have a glove full of Megan Fox thumbs for fingers? How can this guy translate to the NFL? I don't understand it. It's like, man, that guy, Joe Milton, just threw a howitzer at this guy. Let's just calm down a little bit. Let's just bring it down a notch, okay? Like, so I went back and watched, because I was looking at Luther Burton's film, and the one thing that I noticed, there's a lot of parallels between his career path and Stefon Diggs' career path. And this isn't part of the show, but I was just my findings. So former 5-star recruits decide to stay close to home. Stefon Diggs played high school at Good Counsel in Maryland, then decides to go to University of Maryland. Just thrives through absolutely atrocious quarterback play. And then, I mean, you saw that he drops to the 5th round. And that's one of the best 5th-round picks of all time, in my opinion. But the point of that was Diggs dropped the ball. I was watching his highlights, and Diggs dropped the ball at the combine. And he dropped 2, like back to back. And I wondered if that was like why he fell in. Like I wondered that for a long time, if that was why he fell so far in the draft. It's because he had not a great combine. He ran a 4.4 and had 35-inch vertical. Anyway, Luther Burden III coming out in the draft this year from a Kansas guy, stays in Missouri, goes to college, experiences a dip in production because his quarterback goes full simple jack in 2024, and his offensive coordinator decided that he was just the second coming of, one of those Oregon gadget guys like DeAnthony Thomas or LaMichael James, whichever, pick one. Mecole Hardman at Georgia, instead of using him like the 5'11", 210-pound tank that he is. But anywho, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But that's one thing that I kind of drew. I drew a comparison to. And to your point, it really just kind of, it's really irritating when we overreact to the combine, but human nature is going to human nature. So here we are.
Hey, and speaking of the combine, we have a guy who's about to excel in it right where we left off in our last show, TreVeyon Henderson.
Oh my, what a segue, bud. That was right? A professional segue. So you're going to, you just hit a grand slam on the segue, and now you have to tell the people about his worst case scenario. TreVeyon Henderson, Captain Underpants, the floor is yours. Drop that knowledge off about why it could go wrong for TreVeyon.
Yep, this one hurts because I'm a big TreVeyon guy. I was bigger on TreVeyon than Judkins until I saw the championship, and that kind of swayed me a little bit. But, I have my low-end comp at Tyjae Spears, and I still like Tyjae. I believed in him this year. He pulled the wool over my eyes. Tony Pollard was better. But he's a fast guy, a little bit undersized, but not really. He's 208. Like, that ain't that bad. But you're looking at two guys that did carry the rock a lot in college and managed to put up a solid amount of career there. They're going to be a 1A or 1B. And the low-end outcome is Tyjae Spears, in my opinion. That's the low end. And I don't want to go any lower than that. I looked at a bunch of other players. I wanted to give a real hot take here, and I just couldn't do it.
He's so good, brother. He's so good. And
he's really good.
What we're saying here for our listeners is that the floor on this guy is really safe. You're talking about a guy in Tyjae Spears, comes out his rookie year for Tennessee, splits the workload, splits the snap share evenly with Derrick Henry, future Hall of Famer Derrick Henry, and catches the ball out of the backfield. I don't want to overstate the amount of receptions. I believe he had 50 receptions as a rookie and then totaled over 800 yards from scrimmage with only 3 touchdowns, because as a Titans fan, I can say that our offense was unequivocally broken. And this being the worst case scenario for TreVeyon Henderson feels like you're getting a steal where he's going in rookie drafts, which we now have our ADP. I don't know if did I put that in the Discord for you?
No, I ain't seen the ADP. We got some ADPs.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm excited.
I'll send that over to you right now. However, I'll put it in the Discord. However, let's talk about the high-end comp. And I feel like this might not even be high enough. We might have to go to a guy who's not even in the league for me to really, and just show you how old I am and how far back the ball knowledge extends. But I'm going to start with Kenneth Walker is my high-end comp for.
I love that comp. I love it.
I think that TreVeyon is just as explosive very smooth. We've seen his chops as a pass catcher at Ohio State. We saw what he could do with the ball in space just throughout. If you want to go check out a brief little breakdown on TreVeyon, go over to the Two Guys One Pod TikTok page, and I did a pretty smooth little breakdown on TreVeyon. There's also a couple more available out there. But once you turn this guy's film on, it's electric. I mean, it's absolutely electric. And then he does it all. So I mentioned the fact that he catches passes. I mentioned the fact that he can hit the home run and he's very explosive. But the most important thing for young running backs is their ability to pick up and understand like blitz protections. And he has that in spades. It's shades of Ezekiel Elliott at Ohio State with how he just stones defenders, and he absolutely just gets violent at the point of attack when confronted with a blitzer. So I think the floor is extremely safe. This is probably the best. This is probably the best one so far. I think we had one other in the previous episode where we both were like, this is not, the comp's not bad. And, it's pretty good. But the worst case scenario isn't bad, but the best case scenario is incredible. So TreVeyon Henderson, absolutely incredible running back. Ohio State, 5'10", 207 pounds, probably going to light the combine up. What's your prediction for his 40, Addy?
I could see him running like a 4.35. Like, he looks so fast, man. I know he's projected closer to a 4.4, but like, dude, that breakaway speed, it was always on film. Constantly running fast.
It was. And so Kenneth Walker ran a 4.38 at the combine as a rookie in 2022, I believe. So you're predicting that he goes below 4.38 down to 4.35 and just fully gets everybody bricked up in the cement aisle.
Oh, yeah.
Is that correct?
That's my prediction
okay.
there. Yeah.
So we're bricked up in the cement aisle for TreVeyon Henderson. Watch out for him at the combine. I believe the running backs are going on either Thursday or Friday. TreVeyon Henderson, Ohio State running back. So let's move on to our next running back in an extremely deep class, another burner. We got Dylan Sampson. So Captain Underpants, tell us why and how and who, what, where, when, why of your worst case scenario, worst comp for Dylan Sampson, Tennessee running back.
So he's a little bit undersized. We got him at 5'11", 190. He's real fast, and he kind of set the world on fire this year. He got 22 tutties. Looked pretty good. But
single season Tennessee record, 22 tutties.
Didn't look great the year before, did he? He looked fine. Right?
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, it was limited work behind Jalen Wright, Dolphins' third-round rookie pick in 2024.
Jalen Wright, who was a backup this year, too. We're talking about a player who probably isn't going to come in and take the entire workload. And that's why I put Miles Sanders down as a low-end comp. And a lot of people might be thinking, oh, Miles Sanders, that's terrible. That is like the worst-case scenario. Miles Sanders had an RB1 season in him. I think Dylan Sampson, in the right offense, he's going to be able to produce. But I think that when you look at his profile, when you look at a guy who's going to exceed in the Underwear Olympics, but hasn't always succeeded on a football field, hasn't always demanded that workload, that you're going to get a Miles Sanders kind of talent where he might end up on a great offense with a great O-line. If he doesn't, I don't think you should draft him early. Where you got him?
No, that's a valid point. I think that so landing spot's going to be really important for him.
Yes.
So one of the things, the stigmas that's gotten attached to Tennessee running backs is that their production is schemed because of the fact that they have such wide splits. And you're looking at the last couple of guys. I mean, well, it was a really prevalent narrative for Jalen Wright. Yeah. I had Jalen Wright at one point or another as my RB1 or RB2 in the 2024 class. And I think that Dylan Sampson, though, I saw some things from him, even at being slightly undersized, that made me think that he's going to have a very long, very productive career in the NFL. He's 5'11", 201 pounds, but he finishes runs like a man much larger than his stature, and he's extremely agile. So my best case comp for him was Giovanni Bernard, former Bengals running back.
That's a pretty low
Bengals and
best
Bucks, I
case.
guess. I don't feel like it's a really low best case. I mean, Giovanni Bernard, maybe not, maybe in terms of fantasy outcome, but Giovanni Bernard at his peak was really, really, really good. And so I was thinking stylistically, the comp,
I see it.
the comp to his style, much less a fantasy ceiling. I think that if you give this guy 250 touches on a season, he's going to turn into a high end RB2 season. And with the nose for the goal line that he showed at Tennessee, I think that could turn into a low end RB1 season if he gets lucky around the goal line, which, like I said, he does have a nose for the goal line.
He does. That's true. And that's one thing that that I am bring up in his profile, that he executed. Like, I can talk about size all I want. The guy put up 22 tutties. I didn't know Ollie Gordon was higher than him in ADP. I'm looking at this sheet right now. That's interesting. I love that. I love Ollie Gordon.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
people
And
got
that's
low.
this is pre-Senior Bowl. We're going to make that available to you guys. It'll be available on our Twitter pages. I just shared it with Addy, so he'll get it up on his at Duck League Champ on. Well, give us your Twitter real quick.
Yeah.
And we'll
Duck
do it
League
at the end of
Champ
the
on
episode.
Twitter, or Duck League Champ on Twitter. We got Duck League Champ on Insta. We got League.champ on TikTok. But we'll get that on the app too soon.
Yeah. So fantastic. And yeah, I think that this is another medium ceiling and pretty safe floor. I mean, given health and a consistent workload, I feel like Miles Sanders is really good, a really good comp. I think he has a little bit more speed than either one of the guys that we named. So it'll be interesting to see where he lands and what that day one workload looks like for him. Do you see him as a guy that could potentially work his way into a full-time role in year one?
I'm hard pressed to hear that. Like, I can't see him getting a full-time role, because he's one of those guys where you even saw it with Jalen Wright. I was high on him last year too. He goes to the perfect situation in Miami. They still got him in a part-time role. Like, I think they're going to have him in a part-time role to start, and he could show flashes and immediately take that backfield over. But even Gio Bernard was not in the full-time role. Like, he was behind Benson back in the day, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. I'm
That's
old
a good
too.
call. So we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on to our next comp. Now, this is a guy that we both absolutely adore. One of the earliest breakouts of the group. Broke out as a true freshman, rushing for over 1,500 yards. Accumulates over 2,700 yards in his career at Ole Miss before cashing in that NIL deal for the national champion Ohio State Buckeyes. This is Quinshon Judkins, 6 foot, 219 pounds, a bruising ball of twisted steel and contact balance appeal. Now, we're going to go to Captain Underpants here, and we're going to talk about the absolute worst case scenario for D'Onta Foreman. Yeah, edit that part out. We're going to talk about the worst case scenario for Quinshon Judkins.
Well, not to spoil it here, but it's D'Onta Foreman. And I want to kind of handicap this take a little bit, because I'm saying D'Onta Foreman coming out of college. I'm not saying the 270-pound D'Onta Foreman that we've had running behind the Cleveland Browns and Chicago Bears line getting 3 yards carry. That guy's great, don't get me wrong. But when he came out of college, he was catching the ball better than people expected. He was running through tacklers. And when they gave him a big workload, he looked real good with it, because he tore up defenses. And you can tell from this worst case scenario that I'm still a huge Judkins fan. Like, I love what I saw at the end. I really got into the film after that game, and his rookie year, he just looked or freshman year, he looked incredible. Like the guy is a really solid bruising back, and he can be a 3-down runner because he can catch the ball too. So even in the worst case scenario, I still think he's going to have a lot of juice in this league.
I tend to agree with you. I am currently in the middle of doing his 2023 film for Ole Miss as a sophomore, and I am, or I guess it would, yeah, I guess it would be 2023. So yeah, I'm in the middle of doing 2023. I finished 2024 this morning. I was impressed with just how. So obviously, we know that he's not going to be. He doesn't have the speed compadre TreVeyon Henderson. He doesn't have that long speed, but he has this incredible burst. Like once he just sticks his foot in the ground, he's chewing up yardage, and it's really impressive. And to go along with the fact that he's very, very, very physical, and that's the type of guy that you tackle a bunch and then you wake up and wonder why you can't move your neck the next day. That's the type of guy that he is. And there's a guy in the NFL right now that reminds me of Quinshon Judkins, and he is a member of the Detroit Lions in David Montgomery. That's what I see when I see him. I think that he might not have as much of the lateral, because if you remember David Montgomery's calling card coming out of college was how elusive he was as a runner at Iowa State. And then he gets into the league, he has some success. Unfortunately, the Bears weren't in a place where it made sense to re-sign him. He signs with Detroit. I mean, you see what kind of touchdown machine that he's turned into over the last couple of years. So I think that's a really high-end outcome. I mean, if you allow a guy like David Montgomery to have a backfield to himself, you're talking about a bona fide RB1, a guy who can catch passes. Is he Jahmyr Gibbs? No, but who cares? Who is Jahmyr Gibbs besides Jahmyr Gibbs? So I think that's honestly a really safe. I went safe, but I just see so much similarity in their game, the way that they attack and chew up yardage once they put their foot in the ground. So my best case scenario for Quinshon Judkins, running back for Ohio State, is David Montgomery.
So I want to give a caveat on Judkins because I love the guy and I love David Montgomery. I loved watching him in a Bears uniform for 3 years as long as he was there. And we wrecked parts of his first couple of years in the league. We made his yards per carry look real low. They need to be real low. But Judkins, Montgomery, Deontay Foreman, they're going to get those carries. You might be disappointed in the outcome if they don't got the O-line there. But if he has an O-line like the Chargers end up with this guy, oh, that's going to be fun.
Yes, 100%. I agree. One of the things that I wrote down was from his Ohio State film was he's not going to win you. He's not going to get a bunch of yards running east and west and trying to make people miss in the backfield. But once he sticks his foot in the ground, that acceleration is special. So, yeah, I'm really excited for to see his landing spot. Hopefully, he represents himself well at the combine this coming Thursday. All right, so we're moving on to our last running back of the group, one of my favorite running backs. So be careful what you say here. We're gonna talk about Devin Neal, the 3-time 1,000-yard rusher out of the University of Kansas, first ever Kansas running back to win Big 12 Player of the Week as a freshman. Stays in school maybe a little bit too long because I think he would have been the unquestioned RB1 of last year's class. Captain Underpants, tell us what your worst case scenario is for Devin Neal.
Okay, so this one hurts me a bit because I love Devin Neal too, and I also wish he would have come out last year. You know, that Brooks draft class, that there was a good opportunity for him to slide up into the second round if he came out last year. But instead, he comes in, and we're talking about him late in the podcast, which is surprising because the guy's good. I'm going to talk about another guy that I really loved coming out of school. but really hasn't popped as a pro. A guy who hasn't shown that lateral agility that he showed in college in the pros. Quinshon Judkins. When the Bears got Quinshon, I was ecstatic. I love that guy. I was like, he's going to take over this backfield. And he just never got around to doing it. We kept watching. You kept seeing him go up the middle, and you were like, oh, is that Quinshon on that play? No, it's Deontay Foreman. Oh, is that Quinshon on that play? No, it's Khalil Herbert. Oh, is that Quinshon? No, it's DeAndre Swift. You just didn't see the breakaways, and I'm worried that we'll see that from Devin Neal, because I was watching their film, and I saw a little bit of similarity in their games. They're both big. They can both play. They can both catch the ball, but I'm hopeful because I loved watching this guy, too.
That's fair. That is a new fear unlocked, but I do see it. They're similar sized. Quinshon comes in at 6 foot, 223. Devin Neal goes into the Senior Bowl at 5'11", 220 pounds. It does not look like he is 220 when on the field at any point in time, but he's a thick boy. I actually tweeted at Mike Wright. I said, well, he's said something about Devin Neal. Like, he's 220 where? And I was like, we stand undercover thickness, Michael. So I think that this guy, I think the world of Devin Neal. I mean, I'm peeled up. I love the fact that he is just a professional. The beautiful thing about his game to me is that there's very little wasted motion. If he's going to make a cut, he's making that cut immediately. His eyes and his feet are married. It's like, oh, I need to go over there. Hey, feet. Like, we looked over there, so now we're going to go over there. And that's one of the most beautiful things about his game. Another thing that I love about his game is the fact that he consistently is able to make something out of nothing. Like, there's multiple instances on film where you're looking at a run that looks like it's going to be a 2-yard run. Boom, it's 7 yards. Boom, like, oh, we stopped at the line of scrimmage. No, 4-yard gain. And combining that with the fact that he is one of the best pass catchers of this running back group that we're discussing, and I think that we have an outcome. His best case scenario is a guy like Josh Jacobs, Green Bay running back, the belle of the ball. It just so happened that this year, all of the running backs that changed teams hit it big besides DeAndre Swift. And in any other year, we would be talking about. Say what?
For him, he hit it big.
For DeAndre Swift, I mean, 1,200 yards from scrimmage, good for him. But Josh Jacobs is just a man among men, and he continues to dominate the men's league. And that's what I think Devin Neal is going to do the minute that he's handed the keys to a backfield. So we're really excited about Devin Neal. I think this is another guy that's probably not going to test extremely well at the combine, but just if you doubt his ability at all, don't doubt it because of the underwear Olympics. Doubt it because you just don't know ball.
I'd love him to take Quinshon's job in Chicago.
Well, you guys are getting Caleb Johnson, and you're going to like it.
Don't tell me that. We're going to waste his career, man. We don't know what we're going to do.
Ben Johnson?
You can hope. I love Ben Johnson. Hey, I'm a web developer. Ben Johnson gives me hope to be an NFL coach, man. Come on. Like, that guy's my people. But, like, I'm terrified. Every time the Bears make a move, even if it's the right move, it becomes the wrong move.
That's pretty wild. So, but let's move on to one of the most intriguing prospects in the 2025 draft. This is a guy who is basically the Shohei Ohtani of college football. He plays 130 snaps a game. He comes out, he wins the Heisman, he wins the Biletnikoff and the Heisman. On top of this, he had 12 passes defensed, 4 interceptions, 8 passes broken up in 2024. Doesn't win the Thorpe Award somehow, but he is clearly the top-rated defensive back in the draft. But we're going to talk about him as a receiver today, and we're going to give you the Captain Underpants worst-case scenario right here, right now. Travis Hunter, Addy, what's the worst case scenario for Travis Hunter?
So I'm going to start by saying if Travis Hunter was coming in as a receiver alone, I'm with my boy Chev on this. He should be wide receiver 1. He's shown it. He has that juice, and playing both sides of the ball, just he's got that dog in him like nobody we've seen. I think the worst case scenario, because you've seen the route running, you've seen the quickness, you've seen the feet. We got him at Rashad Bateman, the guy that people were comping to Keenan Allen a couple years back. I still think that Rashad Bateman has a little bit of juice in him, but I think that's the worst case scenario if he decides to play receiver.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. I mean, the comps on Rashad Bateman were really high coming out of Minnesota. And he does experience a breakout year this year with 756 yards receiving and 9 touchdowns. Leads the receivers amongst the Ravens in receiving touchdowns, second to Mark Andrews on the team. So we do agree that that would be a disappointing outcome. So let me add some sugar to the medicine here. I'm going to say that if everything hits here, this is an Odell Beckham type reskin.
That's fun.
I think that he is one of the most dynamic talents with the ball in his hands. I think that this is a guy that's probably going to run in the low 4.3, high 4.2 range. And it fools you because he does everything so smoothly. His instincts are off the charts. It's almost like a cheat code because he knows everything that's going to happen with a route combination because he plays receiver and he's seen it a billion times. And then as a receiver, he understands what scares defensive backs and he's able to do that. So I think that this is one of the most intriguing picks because we always said, what would it be like if we had a guy that just played both sides of the ball like he was at a 1A school in high school and dominates. And then we have a guy that's doing it and people are like, oh, no. I don't think it's that good. It's not good. It's not going to be, he can't play receiver. It's like, well, he was one of the best receivers in the country. 96 catches, 1,258 yards, 14 touchdowns. I think that this is, if he's able to play
15 touchdowns.
15?
Yeah, just making sure.
Yeah. Okay. 15 touchdowns. So all those stats plus one more touchdown. Yeah, this is really exciting to me. And I think that the ceiling is the roof, as Michael Jordan once said. So,
well, let's move it on to a more prototypical receiver. The guy that people are starting to tell us should be the wide receiver 1 in the class. A 6'5" talent. He is very skinny still, 212 pounds. Playing in for the Arizona Wildcats with 2 solid seasons. One with 1,400 yards, 1,300 this year, 10 touchdowns, then 8 touchdowns. True breakout his first year, 39 for 700 and 8 tutties. We got Tet Mcmillan.
Bring it to us now.
I'm going to bring in. What was that?
I said, bring it to us now. Talk to me about.
Alrighty.
Yeah, talk to me about the Captain Underpants outlook for Tet Mcmillan.
All right, let's bring in the Slim Reaper, DJ Shark. So, this one hurt me a bit, but you got to remember, DJ Shark managed to put up a 1,011 touchdown year for Jacksonville. He did put up a solid season because when you put up the measurables that Tet's going to put up, you are going to find success in the league at some point in time. But I think in the worst case scenario, if he can't play with the big dogs like he did in college, and I think he can, I don't think that the low-end comps are really going to do him justice. But if he can't, he's going to end up in that phylum with the DJ Sharks of the world. And I'm really hoping that the higher-end outcomes are going to be more what we see. But we don't see a ton of guys with this profile come out and immediately hit the ground running. Like, when we do, they're normally incredible. Like, you normally see the breakout immediately. And I don't know why. Times I watched him play, I wonder if he had that dog in him. Like, Travis Hunter, I feel like might win the jump ball against Tet.
Yeah.
That's
All
a little
right.
scary.
Okay. I mean, Travis Hunter is probably gonna have like a 45-inch vertical, so it's not the worst thing in the world. I'm not as pilled up about Tet Mcmillan as everybody seems to be. That's one guy I had to do a breakdown on. I watched 6 games from 24 and then a couple games from 2023. Now, the positives are he gets in and out of his breaks at the top of his breaks like a shorter, smaller, longer, shorter limbed guy. And it's very, very, very jarring to see as someone who's 6'5", 210. However, I just think that the ceiling on this guy is going to be somewhere around going back to a throwback outside guy, Vincent Jackson.
That's what made me so happy.
Formerly of the I guess it's San Diego Chargers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So this is a guy 6'5", could run like the wind. I think that honestly, for him, he was a jump ball specialist. He won on deep routes and deep down the field, and I think that that's one thing that Tet Mcmillan, if he's asked to do day one, that's what he's going to be able to do, but he's going to be typecast into just that role if he's not able to run all the routes. So for those of you who don't know who Vincent Jackson is, I'll give you a more modern comp. I would say the best case scenario for this guy would be George Pickens.
Okay. I was wondering if you were going to go Pickens because I was thinking about throwing Pickens as my worst comp.
Yeah,
but I felt like that was too high of a ceiling.
The ceiling is really, really high for a guy like this because of the fact that he has special acceleration when the ball's in the air. At the catch point, he is a rare athlete. I don't see him with the same type of physicality that you saw from Drake London this year. And I think that it'll be landing spot dependent for him to have year one dominant success. But I think that this could be a guy who is, you line up outside the numbers, you throw it to him outside the numbers, and 50-50 balls are no longer 50-50 balls when he's involved. So, yeah, Vincent Jackson, George Pickens are my ceiling comps, best case scenario for Tet Mcmillan.
Okay, you want to hear my least favorite call I'm going to make all day?
I'm looking at it right now, and I honestly couldn't agree with you more.
Really? Okay, you agree on this one.
Yes.
Alrighty.
Wholeheartedly.
Because I wanted to put DeAnthony Thomas, but they just aren't the same player.
Right.
Yeah. We got Luther Burden, the third. Not the second.
Not the second, not the first of his name.
And I threw in Paris Campbell because the measurables are real similar. And we've seen Paris Campbell get absolutely wrecked by coaching staffs, typecast into a role where he's not doing anything. But there was a time when Paris Campbell was a dynamic player that we were excited to see coming out of the slot. A gadget guy that can move fast, that really had that run after the catch ability. And I think Burden's got that, but I'm interested. Why do you think that actually works?
Well, so it's an assumption that Luther Burden III's skill set is as limited as his usage in college would allude to. That's where I land. I think that after watching every single snap of the way that he was used in 2024, it's a criminal mismanagement of talent by the Missouri offensive coordinator. And I think that with that, NFL teams might get it misconstrued and believe that you have to use this guy as just a gadget guy when he has the ability to win down the field if given accurate targets. So I completely agree that the worst case scenario for a guy like this is Paris Campbell. So yeah, I'm with you there. Now, the best case scenario is a guy whose career almost coming out of high school and through college parallels his eerily similar. Stefon Diggs. Stefon Diggs was a former 5-star recruit. We talked about this at the beginning of the episode. Stayed close to home, dealt with atrocious quarterback play, and that's exactly what happened to Luther Burden. He could have gone anywhere. He's a 5-star recruit. He stays home. He stays in Columbia, Missouri. He's from Kansas City, and he plays his time out. And now we're left to wonder what would have happened if he got real targets in 2024. So that has people questioning his ability, but you can't question the fact that he's dynamic with the ball in his hands, much like a Paris Campbell. Stefon Diggs was used extremely similar in college, and he turned into one of the best route runners in the entire NFL. I think that Luther Burden's toolbox and his skill set, if allowed to branch out and just take that next step in development and in professional development, I think that this is probably a ceiling outcome for him.
I could not agree more. Honestly, I wanted to have the best comp on this one because I was thinking Jordan Addison in there.
Yeah.
And like it's just those players that can make something happen after they have the ball in their hand. And he can do it.
There is no one better in this class with the ball in their hands after the catch than Luther Burden. I mean, it'd be him and Travis Hunter, like 1A, 1B for me. And Luther Burden, just to add a couple quick stats, Luther Burden, 30 missed tackles forced, which was first among wide receivers on 61 receptions this year. I think that if he lands in the right spot and they allow him to be moved around the formation and don't just line him up, kind of like your Bears use DJ Moore just strictly at X receiver this year, I think that he is going to flourish and flourish early in his pro career. But enough about this guy who underperformed in 2024. Let's talk about a true professional who was amongst the greats in a wide receiver room that's arguably the most talented of all time and still stood out. Let's talk about Emeka Egbuka, and what you're going to do is you're going to give us the nastiest of nasty scenarios for what you think about what could happen. Give us the Captain Underpants outlook for Mr. Emeka Egbuka.
Well, we're talking about a New York City apartment here because the ceiling's real close to the floor. But
hey, that's a bar. That is a bar.
Yep. I didn't even like putting this as my worst comp because I don't really see it. Like, Emeka's fantastic. He's going to be good in the pros. And this guy's good in the pros. But I wanted somebody with that route running acumen and somebody who came from a professional system, came into the league ready, and immediately started putting up yards. So I went up with Calvin Ridley, and I feel like Emeka's going to have that same career arc because he's going to go to a team and they're going to be like, oh, wait until this guy breaks out. And the breakout already happened. 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns. That's the breakout. That's what he's going to do every year.
I couldn't agree with you more. The ceiling is so close to the floor. It's really scary. And I think that a guy like this goes somewhat underappreciated a lot of times because it's just consistent. And like, this is a guy who earned targets. He earned targets in a room where JSN was the alpha, where Marvin Harrison Jr. was the alpha. And then they bring in this freaking alien and he splits reps with him and Carnell Tate and just does his thing again. And it's just consistent. It's just smooth. He's like a Toyota Camry of wide receivers, but like the real souped up one with like tint and all the features and stuff, all the bells and whistles you can imagine. It's just safe. And so my high end outcome, because I think that they're very similar. He's very physical at the catch point. He's been labeled as a power slot, but I'm not even sure that that's fully accurate. My comp was Chris Godwin.
Love that.
I mean, yeah, that gets you a wide receiver 2 outcome. That gets you a wide receiver 2 outcome in 2019. That gets you wide receiver 5 once he's back in the slot in 2024 before he origamied his ankle in half. And I think that Emeka Egbuka is one of the safest. I think that he and Devin Neal parallel in that they're probably two of the safest prospects in this class for me. So yeah, I
That's fun.
love Emeka Egbuka, and I love what you said, the fact that the ceiling is real close to the roof on this one. So yeah, Emeka Egbuka, we're gonna be really high on that guy coming into rookie draft. So remember that name. What let's talk about another guy who's a little more polarizing, and I don't I like him a lot. You can go check out a short that I just dropped about Matthew Golden on our TikTok. I can see the argument for why it would not work, and I'm really interested here to hear your case because I'm in alignment with you that the ceiling probably isn't, I mean the floor rather isn't great for a guy like this. So give us the Captain Underpants outlook for Mr. Matthew Golden, brother.
So we're 3 years into Matthew Golden.
Yep.
And he had a bit of a breakout.
Yep.
We are talking about 6 foot tall, 195-pound junior
Mm-hmm.
in Texas Longhorns uniform, playing behind Isaiah Bond for the start of this year. And don't get me wrong, I love Isaiah Bond, but he isn't someone we've talked about yet. But he broke out. He played great. He made the plays the whole time. And he looked real good this year. But he does not necessarily have that safe floor. Because we've seen he can get overtaken in a target tree. He can end up lower on the totem pole than most guys. And he is not entirely physically imposing.
Right.
So I put Dyami Brown.
Yep.
Because we saw at UNC, like, Dyami had a couple good years. I believe he made Mitch Trubisky look like an adequate player. But, he's come into the league, and every once in a while you hear somebody normally in glasses with a nasally voice like me come in and tell you that Dyami Brown's going to be a good player, and you draft him on your team, and he's on the waiver wire week 2. So I could see that happening for Matt Golden. I don't want to, but I'm a little bit worried.
That's valid, man. I think that your breakout season now, granted, his first couple years, he did struggle with injuries. He puts up his first 2 years, 76 for 988 yards, 13 touchdowns at the University of Houston. That last year at Houston, his sophomore year, was with playing second fiddle to Tank Dell. So, yeah, I can completely see. And even this year, it wasn't in the biggest games. He was outstanding. I think in the in the SEC championship game against Georgia, he puts up 162 yards and was uncoverable. And then in the playoff game, the penultimate playoff game against Arizona State, he was outstanding there too with 151 yards. So I think that people are a little bit jaded, myself included, by how he showed up in some of the biggest moments for the team and him overcoming Quinn Ewers at quarterback. So I landed somewhere. I think that he's going to be a good pro. I think that his pro comp, to me, the best case scenario we're looking at is Jeremy Maclin, the former Eagles and Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, we got a 1,300-yard season under our belt. I mean, this guy was doing work consistently, just very, very smooth operator. Comes out. I mean, I see a lot of the similarities in their game, and I think that it's not the most exciting thing, but you're just consistently going to talk about this guy as a guy who does things the right way and is going to be a pro for a very, very long time. So,
well,
yeah.
We're about to have a bit of a disagreement here because we picked two very different players. For our next guy, Tre Harris. And I'm a little interested because when I was watching some Tre Harris film, one, carried Jackson Dart into looking like an adequate quarterback in the league. But outside of that, I saw a lot of run down the field streaking. I saw him not always being crisp on routes, but making a couple jump ball plays, and I saw Christian Watson. And you saw something different. So tell me what you saw, because please inform me. I'm clearly uneducated on this man.
So with Tre Harris, my best case scenario is a really, really high end comp. This is one of my favorite wide receivers in the draft. We're talking about a guy who's super physically imposing, 6'3", 210 pounds. He puts up over 1,000 yards in 7 games this year, or 8 games against SEC competition. Now, granted, he did line up almost in the exact same spot in the formation every single time. However, the way that he won on big end breakers and contested catch situations and his ability to run after the catch, I think that if everything hits right, this is A.J. Brown to me. I think that he could be more of a reskin of A.J. Brown. I don't know that he has the long speed that we see out of A.J. Brown. I mean, his ability to hit it from 60, 65 yards and consistently win in contested catch situations. A.J. is very clearly, to me, one of the best receivers in the league. I got made fun of the other day because I said he belongs in the S tier of receivers, and if given the type of volume some of those guys get, you would get similar results. So I think Tre Harris, to me, is of that ilk. Like I said, he's currently my wide receiver 3 in this class, and I can't be moved off of that after watching him more. I do understand that there are some perceived physical limitations, but I think that he's going to put that to bed pretty quickly once he gets onto an NFL field with NFL DBs. So, yeah, my high-end comp was very high. Your low-end comp was low enough. I could see that if he is as limited as we believe, or as you believe that he is, then yes, I could see it being Christian Watson. But I think that if you injected him into an environment like the Packers, I think that he would be able to do more than he would be the combination of Romeo Doubs and a Christian Watson. He doesn't have blazing 4.28 speed, but I think he's a consummate professional as a receiver. So yeah, I'm really excited about Tre Harris, and that's why I went with that comp.
Christian Watson's one of the slowest 4.28 guys I've ever watched too. But
last one, let's talk about a guy who is now this guy gets me excited. Me too, this is another physical specimen. I have a type, brother. I have a type. You're finding this out in real time. I'm a bit of a sizeist when it comes to the receivers. Now, I did also love Tank Dell, but there's exceptions to every rule. So, talk to you. I want to hear your worst case scenario about one of my favorite receivers in this draft, and be respectful here. Give me some respect here. Don't try to put too much on it here for Elic AyoManor technology.
So I'm giving you a comp that I was fooled by. So, to be fair here, Terrence Marshall. Yeah, I'm not the only one. The NFL got fooled by it. Like, come on now. Terrence Marshall put up some stats, too. In 7 games his last year, he was averaging 100 yards a game. He had 10 tutties. Like, he was playing. And he put up yards after the catch. He's the right size. He's 6'2", 205. I believed in Terrence Marshall, and he couldn't do it at the next level. Elic AyoManor, I could see that same thing happening. He didn't always play against the best competition. Maybe we're fooled by what we see on film. I don't want to believe that. This is another guy that I think we're pretty aligned on, because when I saw your best case comp, I was like, oh, I see it. I see it immediately. I see it and I'm excited.
I agree, man. I think that this guy is one of the more physically imposing receivers, standing at 6'2", 210 pounds. This is a guy who put 300 yards on the very first receiver in this group, Travis Hunter, who was playing defensive back against Elic AyoManor and got disrespected in the most disrespectful of ways. And I think that this is a guy with just massive catch radius. He's faster than what he's probably going to test. And I think that the pro comp for him, the best case scenario for me, is going to be Anquan Bolden of yesteryear. So just a really, really physical, very just does all the dirty work, catching the ball underneath, running after the catch, really hard to bring down. I'm really excited to see what he's capable of doing, and it excites me to see him finally. I wanted to see him at the Senior Bowl is what I'm trying to say. So getting to see him out on an NFL field again is going to be a treat. I think that this is one of the gems of the class that nobody's really talking about right now. So yeah, I think that his pro comp is going to be
My pro
Anquan
comp for
Bolden.
him was not my worst case, but the one I actually believe, AJ Brown.
What's that?
Yeah.
Really?
I see a little bit.
Really? I could see it. I could see it. Like as I was talking about it and I'm thinking about the clips of watched of Elic AyoManor, I'm like, this is another guy. This is another guy that probably has that type of ceiling. Now, you would have to understand how I feel about AJ Brown to really throw those comps out there for anybody. But I mean, like last year I got really excited about Xavier Legette, and I was like, well, I mean, if he learns how to run routes, he could have a Nico Collins, AJ Brown type ceiling, and we see how that worked out. I should have just said Deebo Samuel and then watch Fat Deebo do Fat Deebo things. But yeah, we don't have to talk about that right now. We both are big AyoManor people, and I'm just finding that out. He's also Canadian. Shout out to you, Grindberg. One of my co-hosts on the Dynasty Pulse is up in Manitoba.
Oh, bonjour.
Freezing his butt off like I am right now. But so we're going to get out of here. Addy, tell the people where they can find you.
Yes.
And
Please
us.
check us out in Two Guys, One Pod on the TikToks, on the Instagrams, Two Guys, One Pod FF. And also check us out at League Champ, at Duck League Champ on Twitter and Insta. Download our app, check out our website, do all the following, etc. things. And, most importantly here, do not expect Isaiah Bond to go where he belongs in the draft.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I wholeheartedly agree with that. You can find me at Chev90. Also, as we lamented before, Two Guys, One Pod FF on all social media platforms. I also co-host the Dynasty Pulse and Titans Uncovered on Uncovered _ and it was there's no underscore. It's just Uncovered NFL on YouTube, along with the Dynasty Pulse, which is hosted on the network that hosts this podcast, the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. So, with that being said, we're gonna let you guys go. I will leave you with this thought. My papa told me that I could be anything that I wanted. So I decided to cosplay AJ Brown at a Halloween party. Have a good night, everybody.